I'd say let's talk about hand size for a second. We gotta talk about it because there's really one major thing that people talk about when talking about Kenny Pickett. Well, two major things. Hand size. It's an issue to a lot of people. And it kind of makes some sense, right? I mean, just think about it. Let's look at my hands, for example. You see, my hand can take up a decent amount of the football. And listen, I'm not a throwing motion expert. Maybe this isn't the perfect hand placement, but you can certainly just tell by holding a football, hey, if my hand was bigger, I could easily control it more. That logically follows and makes some sense. But that's me, someone who does not play football. What about someone like a Kenny Pickett who clearly has reached high highs at the college level? Does it matter? To me, no, not really. Well, kind of. See, it doesn't, but it does matter. I guess here's the way I picture it. What do I care about more? A guy who has big hands or small hands? I need more evidence. I need more than that. Joe Burrow had small hands. It didn't bother me in the slightest because when you saw Joe Burrow throw, he was consistently accurate and had great arm strength. So the real way to try and figure out if hand size matters is kind of just to pretend to throw it out and don't really worry about it unless you see some stuff on tape that you think the only reason why it exists is because of Kenny Pickett's lackluster hands. Some of the first things you'll see are stuff like this, where you can see some really impressive throws from Pickett. Watch him off balance, make a tough throw across his body, and he's able to complete it and get a touchdown right there. Kenny Pickett is a really good athlete. He can move and he can throw on the run. That stuff definitely jumps out on tape. I think about something like this as well, where you have a blitz coming to the right hand side of Kenny Pickett, so that's where the blitz is. Pickett is going to take the snap. He even catches the ball despite his tiny little baby hands, and as you see here, there is now pressure. Maybe he could have picked up that blitz. That's a fair criticism, but also watch what he's going to be able to do. As you see, he does get around the pressure, and he's going to run downfield, and instead of continuing to run, keeps his head downfield, throws it, and they pick up a big gain right there. Stuff like that just immediately jumps out at you and can get you excited about Kenny Pickett, quite frankly. Can definitely be things that can get you optimistic about someone like Kenny Pickett. And I also think stuff like this, I mean, you just can't help but notice that he runs an offense very well. He's a smart player, and a play like this is a good example. I don't have all 22 for every single game, but the ones that I do have it for, like, it just jumps out at you, like, how well he does making these reads and making them consistently. This is going to be quarters coverage, and really the player who I have circled in white, that safety, he's going to be the guy that Pickett is going to want to make his read towards. Basically, if he runs further in to cover up the route that's going to be further closer towards the right-hand side of the screen, so more of the underneath-ish route, then Kenny Pickett wants to throw it deep. If the safety stays deep, you throw it over the middle. Look at how right when this play begins, you're going to see Kenny Pickett does, in fact, take the snap. He's going to look downfield. And at this point, what should the read be? It should be the deep route, right? That's what you should do since the safety is getting ready to run over the middle. Pickett makes the read. Certainly, the ball is up in the air for a minute, but it does eventually get there, and they're able to pick up a big chunk play. So it's those kind of smart reads that you really do see when you watch Kenny Pickett and when you watch his tape, is that he runs an offense, and he runs an offense well, and obviously that's a good thing. Some people might say, he's a bit of an older player. A lot of these younger guys, they'll eventually get it down. Well, they don't always. Like, it actually is a skill that doesn't always get better. So for someone like Kenny Pickett, who already has that skill, it's definitely a plus. Something like this is another one where it's going to be a cover 3 zone, and you see the way this concept could work. Really, that middle route, that's the one that will typically get open on this play, so that is going to be Pickett's first read. As you see right when this play begins, what you're going to notice is that as of right here, Pickett's already throwing the football because you can tell it's about to get open. Again, it's not necessarily making these super high intelligent reads that no one else can do. It's just about consistently making the right play and making it quickly, and that's what Pickett is doing. As you see, he makes an accurate throw on top of it, and they're able to get, again, a solid chunk play there. This one's another one where it's going to be zone coverage, and you can see how it can work. I mean, this one, not really so much of a read, more so just like a good throw from him, because it's going to get into a gap in coverage. As you see, Pickett takes the snap, runs a play action, looks down the field, there definitely is a bubble for Pickett to make this throw. And Pickett kind of sidearms it a little bit, but still gets an accurate throw, gets it down the field, and they're, again, able to get a completion and move the ball down the field. So he is relatively accurate. He's relatively consistent with these plays. And, again, he makes the right decisions on most of these plays. A play like this is another one where, again, it's kind of a basic play. It's kind of similar to the last one. It's man coverage, but it's the same idea. Pickett's going to take the snap, and watch the timing. Watch how he really puts it right when he should. It's not about always exactly putting it right on the money, although he did that as well, but also putting it right when you should. Something like this is another good example of what Pickett can do, where, as you see, what's going to happen is it's going to be a one-on-one block, and watch really how poorly this goes. Look, kind of just a weird situation, but it is going to eventually, create some pressure and gets Pickett out of the play to where now Pickett's, again, doing what you want to see a quarterback do in these situations, especially someone like Pickett who can run. You don't want to see him put his head down and just try and run. He keeps his head up and continues to look down the field. I think a lot of college quarterbacks would try and run and pick up as many yards as possible, and you'd get some for doing that. However, Pickett makes an accurate throw, and it is going to be a touchdown right there. So again, there's good stuff here. That being said, let's go over to this play where there's also some not great stuff, and this is kind of a good example of it where you kind of seen it on some of the other plays. It's not as easy to tell on all 22 as it is in broadcast footage, actually, but the arm strength is, it's not great. It just isn't. And I do kind of, this is where I start to think maybe this is where the small hands thing comes into play a little bit. Now, again, this is the correct way, I think, to use the knowledge that he has small hands. You see that there's an issue on film, and then look at the hand size as a potential for why it might be an issue, as opposed to seeing that he has small hands and then figuring out what issues could arise because of it. That's how I view it. Anyways, back to this play. It's zone coverage, and you see the way this concept can work, where the receiver who's lined up to Pickett's left, so towards the bottom of the screen, is going to eventually run over the middle. This is supposed to get the corner out of position so you can hit the other player who's starting at Pickett's right, running all the way over to the left. As you see, right when this play begins, it's getting ran relatively well. There's an opening. It's not wide open, but it's something that you can do here. However, when Pickett makes the throw, it does take a minute to get there, and also the corner, really, the receiver should have, this maybe you could argue isn't the perfect example, because the receiver should have came back towards the ball a little bit better than the corner did. The corner was able to make that play, so you could certainly sit here and say, that was more of a good defensive play. I wouldn't fight you on that, but even if that's how you feel, I would still point out, like, this is about as fast as we see Pickett throw it, and it's still not that quick. And we also we see some inconsistencies. It's not always like every single one of his throws is, a slow ball. It's some inconsistencies there, and we do see some wobblers on tape. It happened. Also, going over here now, this is another one that I noticed, and this is something we see with a lot of these young college players, so it's not a huge deal. And again, as a whole, I guess I would say I'm relatively pro Kenny Pickett. I see that there are some issues in his game. That's, of course, the case of all of these quarterbacks. There is no perfect, polished quarterback. And even the ones we feel are perfect and polished, like Trevor Lawrence last year, it took him at least 1 year. So who knows anything? No one knows anything. But still, from what I've seen on tape, there are some things that would concern me. This is an example. As you see, pressure is going to come, and Kenny Pickett just never even notices it, seemingly, despite the fact that it was pretty clear that there was pressure, and he had time to do something. Now, what was he going to do? I don't know, but, he could have thrown the ball underneath. There were checkdowns available had he gotten rid of the football quickly. Failure to pick up a blitz, that's something that can really hurt young quarterbacks early on. That is something that I noticed with Kenny Pickett, is those things were very prevalent in his game. This one's another one. It's not even going to be where the blitz comes from. That is what brings Pickett down, but still, a lack of urgency when getting blitzed. That's probably the best way I would describe sort of what I have seen from him on tape at times. So yeah, that's kind of how I feel about Pickett. He's a great athlete who can throw on the run, and he can run in offense. He is accurate, is smart, and has shown examples of throwing the ball with some zip, but there's been inconsistent arm strength with okay at best pocket presence. And again, I also think part of it is maybe it's not the small hands. It might be he kind of is a little arm dependent in his throwing motion, just something I noticed as well. He definitely holds on to the football for too long against the blitz. That's just something I've seen. He does have an occasional WTF play. It's not too often, but it happens, and he definitely feels as though he can make every throw when he can't. So that's kind of the pros and cons of Kenny Pickett from what I've seen. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. What are your thoughts on Kenny Pickett? Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.